a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hi, everyone. Well, I'm so pleased to welcome back to the show. He is a comedian and a comedy show MC or host, whatever words you want to put on that. From New Brunswick, Cive Lucas. Welcome back to the show, Cive.
Oh, thanks for having me back.
So what's new?
Putting on shows. Actually, it's nice to get to talk to you today about a show we're doing in November for a comedian's son was hurt in a car accident. And we've decided as a community to put together a show here in St. John, one in Fredericton and one in Moncton, with everything going to help with his son's recovery. He's got a baby that was born and got in a bad car accident. He's not on the mend, I guess, but they're slowly taking him off things like life support and everything else and letting his body heal on its own. But it's a financial burden for him, so we want to do everything we can to try and help them. So,
right, very good. Yeah. So, have you already got comedians lined up?
Yeah. I have venues, comedians. It's basically going to be the comedians that I'd like to perform in the area is great. If people want to come from out of town, they can. Mm-hmm. It's going to be stage time for everybody. It just might not be very long, but everybody's been real active of wanting to help. So we want to get everybody that wants to help a chance to help. So the shows will be a couple hours long, but hopefully just full of laughs and raise lots of money.
Yeah, that would be really good. So, okay. So at the venue, what I want to know is how do people find out where the venues are? Do you have that posted somewhere?
I'm getting it set up. I'm still not great at these things, but I'm getting it so that one poster will get you through to all three. But it's going to be called Bad Words for a Good Cause. Mm-hmm. Will be the overall name of the three shows. And then each one, Moncton will have, I'll probably be going to that one to host, but Fredericton has a host and they're going to, we'll have comedians lined up for there, but they'll have a separate host, but it'll all be under Bad Words for a Good Cause.
Right. And in the meantime, if somebody hears about this through this show, they can always contact you on Facebook, right?
Exactly. And there's a GoFundMe and things like that as well that he set up to try and help as well with some of the costs, because healthcare can be free, but everything else is not free.
Yeah, medicine is not free for sure.
No, exactly. And
physio with certain things, right? That just
exactly. And it's not a fast recovery. So anything we can do to help, and he'd be a guy who'd be the first one to stand there. And he does a lot for Paralympics and things like that as well. So
good.
So he likes to help as well. So
so it's good to give back, isn't it, when you can?
It's for a great cause, and people will get to laugh for a little bit, and the comedians get to do a little bit because none of us have money. So if we can raise some money, that'd be great.
For sure. Every little bit helps, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand, because I'm trying to help a friend. She needs a service dog, and it's like, whoa, that's expensive. unless you're a vet or a first responder or something, but you can fall through the cracks with cost of things, right?
Oh, yes. And even the cost of the show, I was considering doing ticketing prices, but I think we may do free entry with just pay donation, make a donation on GoFundMe, because the problem when you ticket, especially like an event, it's you're going to limit people. Everything costs more. So for a good cause, why not let everybody give what they can instead of setting a price on it? And they can give to GoFundMe. They can give us money at the show. It'll just be but it makes it more accessible to everybody, because somebody might be embarrassed. They can only give $1. But that's something. You don't want to limit who can go to a show to help.
Right. And if you were to do like an online, like an event, what is it called, where you pay on online? There's a cost to that as well, added to what you want your entry to be, right? Yeah. So this way, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I apologize for interrupting.
No problem. No, for this way, whatever you get, you bring in was totally no cost anywhere else, like nothing taken off the top, which is really good.
And what I'm kind of hoping in my head is that if it goes well, we start doing monthly shows, whether it's not going to always be for something as drastic as an accident, but there's a hospice in town called Bobby's Hospice that is an amazing thing. Maybe we could do something for that one month, or for the SPCA, things like that, that it's something fun to do, but it raises money and gives everybody a chance to give back a little bit.
Yes, and I think that often people don't mind paying when it's something like that, right?
Oh, exactly. And we could always have different ideas for the shows. Like, there's whose line is it anyways? You get some comedians that like to do improv maybe, or things like that. As it goes, you can have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
And just stick to the bad words for a good cause.
I wish I was there and get into the improv with a friend of mine. That would be so much fun.
There's a couple of groups in Fredericton that are getting really into it that I haven't gotten a chance to see, but I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Okay, by the way, just backing up a little bit, I forgot to ask you, because I think on the first time you were on the show, you said you were originally from Ontario.
Yes.
So what brought you to New Brunswick?
There was a very small window of time in the early 90s where there was construction jobs in New Brunswick.
Okay.
And my dad traveled for construction. At least that's what his cover story was. I'm pretty sure he was smuggling Kinder eggs into the US or some nonsense. But he, for what he did, he could kind of go across the country, see what, but he was working in Beldoon, and it was supposed to be a much bigger time. So he said, okay, things are getting really expensive. It was in Kitchener-Waterloo is where we were living, and it was just before BlackBerry boom and all that stuff.
Right.
So we were like, okay, nothing really. So Dad moved us. I moved in Thanksgiving of 92. I remember because I went from high school to junior high. It was like Billy Madison without a budget. But the other thing I remember is on the way to Bathurst, when we were flying from Toronto to Bathurst, they came across and said that Roberto Alomar just hit the home run to put them ahead against the A's in I think it was game 5 or game 6. They told us about that, which was great, but they didn't tell us that we were being diverted an hour out of the way for fog.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're like, oh, by the way, the Jays won, but we got to land in somewhere called Charlotte. So, but because I lived across the country, like I lived in Edmonton when I was 4. I'm old enough that I'm next to a sign that says "Coming soon, the West Edmonton Mall." But it's an interesting thing because the only province I haven't stepped foot in is Newfoundland, and I still would like to get there. And I've lived in most of them, whether it be through my dad's work or just kind of following them after high school, because there wasn't anything to do in Bathurst. So that's how I wound up in Winnipeg and Saskatchewan and back in Ontario and stuff like that before moving back to Bathurst again. Because the Maritimes will bring you back every single time.
I know. It's hard because one of my sister and I talk about moving back to Hamilton, but it's a small town. You have to have all of as we get older, you have to have all of you'll be able to get to doctors and hospitals and whatever, so.
Exactly.
But it's a nice little place. New Brunswick is that beautiful province.
Oh, exactly. And especially when you go for along the coast and stuff like that for drives and just get out of the way. It's very quiet compared to other provinces, stuff like that. You can find the best little out of the way places, but really and truly, I've been across the country a lot, and I would say I would come back, maybe not necessarily St. John, but the Maritimes itself every single time, just because of how great you get a weather change, things like that. You don't quite get the deep psychosis of Southern Ontario and things like that.
All right. Now, jumping back to your comedy for a second, to comedy events. Are you good? I know you're going to be hosting one of them. Are you also going to be doing this a skit? Are you booking yourself on?
Oh, yes. In any show that I host, I start out doing 5 minutes of my own material, and then I kind of let the show go from there on its own. If there's spots that need it, I might say something to keep it going or get an audience back if I have a joke in my back pocket. I'll usually have an intermission just to give people a chance to breathe for 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and do 5 minutes again to get the second half going.
Yeah.
And I tend to save a couple of the comics who work, it's such an old term, but bluer, or material that makes me laugh hysterically, like out of its sensibilities, I'll put them on in the second half, just so that people have that, oh, I know them, they're coming up and they're going to be good. And I might change my material a little bit to be more like, that's when I might talk about being bad at dating, things like that. But I always try and give myself a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But I do, other hosts put me on their shows to do 10 minutes or so, and that's when I'll do stand up. But when I'm hosting, I'd rather it be about the other comedians. It's a show I'm putting on, but to show you comedians I think are funny. And
yeah.
It's not about, I try not to make it about me because I'm not that great.
Well, you must be doing something right.
Oh, I just have blackmail on bars, so they say yes to me. It's just I never get budgets for the show. It's not that good a blackmail.
So how many, at any of the given shows coming up, how many comedians would you hope to have?
I have one coming up next Saturday that's a small showcase. That's my first time putting on a show with a budget where I'm have a closer, an opener, things like that. And I'm hoping to get 30 people or so. It's a bar restaurant. At another show, we could get 40 people in a small room. And then the next show have two. Like especially coming out of the summer, the last show, there was a couple that were sitting in the back that stayed for the first half, but they gave money. It was a pay what you can. So they gave some money and then they had to go. So it was my mom and her friends left in the front table. So fortunately, comedians were able to try out material without having to worry about being told on.
So how do you personally deal with hecklers if you've had to?
It depends on what they're doing. We have a show in Moncton that I do that the audience doesn't even let you react to the hecklers. They're already taking them down.
Oh, nice.
But if a lot of the times it's not even heckling, it's that they're just talking. They're not. And my biggest thing is the performers are really putting their all out there. Give them your energy. If you disagree, say it after. But if you're talking during the show, we let you know quite a few times that it's comedy. And after the first, 5 minutes of me talking, you should know at least that there's somebody trying to be funny. But you'll get people who are, and everybody does it. Your voice carries, you don't realize, especially in a bar where people are talking and drinking their voice. But it's just trying to, and if they're being like, there was a table at the last show that I did in Moncton that they were talking, weren't there for comedy, but they were made aware like 45 minutes, a half an hour before, like, hey, if you're going to stay, it's great. Just let the comedian, well, they kept going. So I asked if it was a retirement party because it was fairly older people, and that didn't get them on my side. But it got the crowd on my side. So everybody kind of was like, shh, just be quiet. These people are being funny. And you're not. Like, there was people threatening violent, like, I'm going to kick your ass if you don't be quiet. And it's not like the people you would think. It was a lady in her early 30s that turned around and threatened this table of people that I still swear were there for a retirement party. But it was kind of cool to see that we didn't have to take ownership. Like, the crowd wanted to hear us make jokes, and this is one that we do at a place called Route 6, and it was actually a friend of mine from high school that got me set up with the show there. And it's grown each time, but the crowd every time really react. They really like the comedians we're bringing in. So we get a nice crowd, but that crowd is also very protective of the comedians.
Good. Yeah. One of the worst events I went to, a comedy night, the host's wife was there in the audience, and that at the back of the room behind where I was sitting with some friends, and they talked the whole time through the comedies, the performers, and I'm thinking, hey, that's your husband up there as the host. What are you doing? It was unbelievable.
And sometimes comedians can be the worst ones for it, because we sometimes see people stuff so often that, and it might be the time you get a chance to say something and you're thinking you're talking quietly, but you're talking loudly. And then it's actually telling other comedians, okay, shh.
Yeah.
You have to find a balance. Even if somebody's being rude at your show, it's finding the balance to keep them in their seat and maybe get them watching again.
Yeah.
Or getting them quietly out the room, because the worst thing that can happen is you trigger somebody with, especially if there's alcohol involved. It's not that hard to get somebody really mad, and that can ruin the whole show. Or it can suck the energy right out of the room without somebody meaning to. They're trying to do something right, and sometimes you just have to kind of put your hand on a table and say, okay, oh, and usually people will, if you don't embarrass them a lot of the times,
Right. Yeah.
but if they're just making a show of it, then sometimes you have to embarrass them. Like with older people, I ask them if they're the kind of people that sit there and fact check Canadian history moments because they were there, and sometimes that makes them laugh. Sometimes even they don't get the reference. So, but but a lot of the times heckling is like I've seen a woman get very angry at a comedian for making a joke about Colombia having cocaine. He said, "Oh, I love Colombia. I love your cocaine." And this woman got very angry, saying there's beautiful women and everything else. And he's like, "Yes, but that's not as funny as cocaine."
Right. Good point, eh?
But he kind of took the wind out of her sails, but he didn't come
Yeah.
back at her because she was making herself more angry. So he just kind of let her take the wind out of her sails, and the owner stepped in and got her out. But you could tell by the look on her husband's face that this was not the first time. Like they said, oh, because it's a bar. So we said, "Who's here for comedy?" And they were looking and we're like, "Oh, you guys are just here on a date and it happens to be comedy." But they were sitting right in the front. And they like it obviously was not the first time this woman's made a spectacle.
Yeah.
Probably not the last.
Yeah.
But it's one of those cases, and people said, "Oh, they should say something." And it's no, the worst thing you can sometimes do is say something that escalates things, because if you look at videos on YouTube of people like Lisa Baker had a table thrown at her for no reason, like
Oh my gosh.
with drinks still on it. Darren Frost had a glass thrown at him from across the room
Right.
because he made a joke, and the person said, "Well, my mother died today." And he said, "Well, how am I supposed to know that?" And they threw a glass at him. Like it people have turned into the YouTube comment section
Mm-hmm.
live, and it's very scary that people think these things are okay, because you see it with musicians sometimes where things are being thrown at the stage and stuff, but now you're seeing it more with comedians. At bigger the venues, the more people are throwing stuff, or they're just yelling things, and they seem to want to be part of the show. Part of that's these crowd work comedians who do a great job, but then people think that every comedian does crowd work, and many um they have their set. I'm not great off that. Sometimes people are good off their feet, sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
And it's better to, people should go to the comedy, and if they're offended, maybe like I think I mentioned last time, people need to do a better job of seeing what they're going to see. You're not going to go pay $30 to see a band you don't like. So why are you doing that to see a comedian you don't agree with? Because you think you're going to be the guy to slip one in on them and get them? I don't think so.
Exactly.
There's comedians like I believe Steve Hofstad. He is extremely funny, and for some reason can get everybody riled up, and everybody seems to think on these videos they're going to be the one to take them down, and he just destroys them in such a way that it's hilarious. But it's because, and part of that's people think that it's just okay because some comedians like it, that every comedian likes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't bother me. Most don't. I got booed by my own mom before, so
Oh, thanks, Mom.
well, there's a comedian here that's probably my best friend in comedy, and I always make fun of her. And it's always good ribbing. But my mom thinks she's just the most wonderful lady in the world. And so when I said that Michelle's vagina was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, nobody's cared about it since the 90s, my mom started booing, saying, "Don't be so mean." So she keeps me honest.
Yeah, right. Hey.
Yeah.
But it's kind of amazing to me, though, that some people feel they have the right to throw things or make a scene at somebody else's event. I'm always amazed by that.
And part of the problem is they see it done by people. Well, it's an old reference now, but still Will Smith getting up and smacking Chris Rock in the face, led by after they had somebody try and stab Dave Chappelle. And
Right.
comedians are saying things. We're in a time where, like I say, the American people love to say they have freedom of speech, but for a country with freedom of speech, they ban a lot of books.
Yeah, exactly. Go kind of backwards.
And so people are taking it like this is my opinion, so it's the right opinion, I don't care.
Yeah.
Sometimes the comedians are doing it to try and be edgy or whatever. And sometimes that's just like, you have comedians like going all the way back to Carlin, you watch some of his stuff, it's still relevant today.
Right.
But you have people like Tim Dillon is very outspoken about everything and very smart. and people go after them thinking that they're going to one up them, but they're not. But part of that is also the podcast. Now it's sort of like when you used to have people on TV shows in your house every day. Well, now you have these people on podcasts in your house, and some are watching it, like Kill Tony. I watch that every Monday. I watch clips of like Joe Rogan, things like that. But you have that connection again of somebody in your house, like it was in days of news or even sitcoms and things where people felt entitled to that person, whether it's a real person or a character, they feel entitled to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's been kind of amazing when I think about it all. I had a thought in my head, but it's just gone. Well, there you go for that. So let's get back to your events again in November. What did you say? There's 3 or 4?
There's 3. November 12th, we're doing one here in St. John at the Wasted Day Brewery. On the Monday, we're going to do one at Rustico in Fredericton. And then on the Tuesday, we'll do one at Route 6 in Moncton. And we're going to do them all.
So on the first one,
everything will.
Sorry, go ahead.
And everything will go 100% to Brian Payne, our comedian friend's son.
Okay. So the first one you said is on the 13th?
On the 12th.
On the 12th,
November
Sunday,
12th.
on the 12th. Okay. Because I want to make sure I get this aired before that date.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so I'll try to do that. Okay, well, I think we'll end it there. We got all of those dates
Excellent
in there, and just stay on camera. And so everybody, you've been listening to Cive Lucas. If you're in the area, in New Brunswick, in the places he mentioned, go to the event and donate whatever you can and get some laughs and help somebody at the same time. That's a win-win for everybody. So in the meantime, thanks for watching the show, everybody. Take care and peace out. Oops, where's the off button?
A sense of community, till the wax a place to be. A sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.